welcome to the Bernaden Cottage. This is the cottage that Arabelle and Alex bought in the 1970s. They had 5 children and they could no longer rent cottages with that group of children, so they bought their own cottage. Howard fished out in these waters, so he knew exactly where the sand beaches were. So he brought Arabelle to this spot and they bought this cottage. Someone else wanted to buy it first, but Dad got there with his money and we got the cottage. The cottage is actually on Green Bay instead of Lake Michigan. Way over there on the point is where Rose lives. And if you look across, you'll see Door County and Chambers Island. The closer thing is Chambers Island, and then back there is Door County. On 4th of July, you can see 4 or 5 cities worth of fireworks. And then Menominee and Marinette are this way. So originally it was called the Honeymoon Cottage. It was downtown in Menominee, and during the winter, they brought it up on the ice, brought it over the ice and to this spot. And all the family enjoys it, especially on 4th of July when we have a reunion. But families can come up any time of the year and enjoy the cottage and the water.
Well, my very first memory is when I came here with Carol when we were engaged. I went with her family and we went for a swim out in this lake right here. And it was awesome because I knew I was getting married to Mom. So I was happy.
Some of my favorite memories at the cottage are seeing Grandpa and Grandma sitting on the ends of the table, just talking to us. And in the afternoons, Grandma would usually take her afternoon nap on one of the day beds, and I love watching her.
I remember Grandma the socialite, always wanting and ready to host when people came over to visit. I remember Grandpa taking such good care of the cottage and making sure everything was nice and stayed taken care of.
One of my favorite things about Grandpa is that he just likes to sit and watch. He enjoys the parties and everything going on around him and just takes it all in.
And I love seeing Grandpa outside working on all of his projects.
Watching him get up early to go fishing, I always thought that was so cool.
I noticed also that Grandpa would take people out in this boat right here, and he'd take them for boat rides.
And then I remember him sitting on the beach watching us when Peter or Jared or Gabe or whoever it was would take us out on the boat. And it was like he was so proud that we were using his boat and having fun at his beach, and that was always a lot of fun.
There were some summers where I would go up north with Grandma and Grandpa at least once a month. And it was always neat to be able to go up there alone with them and just have that time with Grandma and Grandpa. It was neat, you know, they stop and buy you snacks and treats along the way, and then being able to go out in the boat with Grandpa. And we kind of went out fishing a few times, but didn't actually ever fish. It was mostly just drive out in the boat, drive around. But then that's kind of where it started with him showing me how to drive the boat and take care of the boat and learn so that I could start doing it on my own.
My favorite memory at the cottage was when Jake and I were little kids and we would go out on the beach and we would use the hose and make all kinds of different like structures and put our toys in the sand, and then we'd, you know, spray it with the hose or use the hose as like a make-believe river.
I loved bouncing on the black tubes out on the beach with Zach and Ben, and just playing on the sand dunes and like hanging out.
Mostly because there was water here, you guys wanted to play in the water, so I played in the water with you. And a lot of our time was spent either next to the water or in the water.
Or I love kayaking there now. That's probably my most recent favorite memory there, is having fun on the water in the kayak.
I absolutely love coming to the cottage. I have so many good memories of coming when I was young. One of my favorite memories is seeing Arabelle come and set up her chair over on the sand, and she would just watch the children play and have a good time. But when I was really young, I remember that Grandma Clara, who was Alex's mother, would also come and set up a chair and watch all the kids play, and she didn't speak very good English, and so she would just love to watch everybody run around and play and laugh, and she got such a kick out of that, seeing everyone have a good time.
And then once great grandma was in the nursing home, when we went up there every month, we always spent time with her, taking her on a walk to the marina, and then being able to stop and get some ice cream at the ice cream shop on the corner across from the marina.
And we just sit on the pier and eat ice cream. And they have Blue Moon ice cream, and that's my favorite flavor. That's why it's my favorite flavor, because I used to always get it there.
I remember when we had such a long beach, and then one time the water was out so much that there were sandbars.
The water was so far out that we could walk out all the way to Uncle Ed's point.
And so Melissa and Abby and I would make up dance routines.
We brought a boombox out to the sandbar and we would do dances on there.
For everyone to watch at the 4th of July picnic.
And then now the water's all the way up here, which is just nuts.
During different years, the water's been high and low. There were years where you could walk 100 feet out and it was all sand, but this year it happens to be at an all-time high. And so we've been sandbagging to try and keep the water at bay. Grant is over here filling sandbags to try and keep the water at bay. Grandkids fill sandbags, cousins fill sandbags, everyone fills sandbags to try and keep the beach as beautiful as it is instead of putting rocks in. Grandpa says that in the winter, the waves can get up to 20 feet high during a blizzard. And so we're trying to protect the cottage so that it can be a place that everyone can enjoy.
Because this cottage is right next to a lake, it was very relaxing to listen to the waters going whoosh, 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 whoosh. And it was a change of pace from living in the city. You felt like you were out in the woods all by yourself.
These two little black lambs have been on the cottage since the 1970s. Before that, they were on our house at 2880 South Calhoun Road in New Berlin. So if you look at any of the Easter pictures from 2880 in the 60s, you'll see these two little black lambs. And so Grandma brought them with up here to the cottage. This is the propane tank. There's no automatic heat here, and so every winter you better make sure that you have your propane tank. And if you notice, there's lights under the cottage. Those are to keep the skunks out. And we have an apple tree. Edna even made apple pie out of that apple tree right there. The cottage has a little pump house with a well, and also it has this little unit to help take some of the iron and bad elements of sulfur out of the water. And so every year you have to open this up in the spring and then close this pump house down in the winter. Here's the burning barrel. There's no trash collection up here this far north, up north. And so every time we are done with our stay at the cottage, Grandpa Alex would burn the trash. Never ever throw grease down the sink. Goes right in there. This trout is in memory of Howard Barker. Howard Barker had a trout like this on all of the things that he owned. His garage and his boat and Ed's boat. And so we put one here at the cottage in memory of Howard, our grandpa. This is the brand new garage built in 2020. We used to only have a shed and an outhouse, but we needed something larger so Kathy and Debbie could fish up north and store their boat in the cottage over the winter. It's a wonderful, wonderful addition to the cottage. 10 years ago, an addition was built with the money that we received when Edna died, and so the addition is called Edna's Room. This is a yarn drawing of a frog that my cousin Vikki made probably in the 1970s for my mom, and my mom put it up and never took it down. This is the telegram that the State Department sent my dad during the 1970s, exactly before the Iran hostage crisis, because my dad was supposed to go to Iran, and if he did, he would have been held hostage with the other Iranian hostages, but the State Department told him not to go, and that was when he worked for Aquachem and built water refineries. This is one of the original chairs that was in the cottage when my parents bought the cottage in the 1960s. The person who owned the cottage before us worked at Lloyd's Looms in town, and they made furniture, and so that when we bought the cottage we had some of the original furniture. This antique is now worth $1,000. This is a wall hanging that my mother made in the 1980s. She made it all by herself and put all the pieces together. I learned how to sew from my mother in 1972 when she made my cheerleading outfit, and she's taught me everything I know about sewing. These are Edna's bowls. All of the bowls and pots and pans in this cottage are Edna's or my parents from when they were first married. And so when we use all the different implements around this house, we remember Edna and my parents. This sunflower was hanging on the wall by the back door in our kitchen at 5205 South Skyline Drive during the 1970s, and my mother loved it so much that she brought it up here to the cottage. This is a little wall hanging that's been here since the 1960s. When I was a little girl in the 60s, I used to look at this and stare at all the little pieces in it and thought it was so unusual and wonderful. Look, it says for KB, Kathy Bernaden. Up here on the shelf are different treasures, like sparklers or fireworks. But this one treasure is from 1962. It's from the Seattle World's Fair, when my father drove his brother-in-law Dan and his father Howard all the way from Menominee, Michigan, all the way to Seattle. And they did it on the back roads because there was no expressway in those days. And so there's about 4 of these that our family has, and I've seen them on the internet. They're treasure.
Some of the other fun memories, we're seeing all the family up there. We spend, every 4th of July, we always had the picnic where we'd see all the extended family.
They used to have a picnic every summer, and so I remember coming to the picnic, and a lot of Carol's family, her parents, relatives, came for the dinner or lunch, whatever it was that they were serving.
I loved the 4th of July parties here.
We always loved to buy fireworks and go up there, especially for 4th of July when all the family was up there, and we'd all be blowing off fireworks, bottle rockets, firecrackers, watching those to be unnamed use M80s and blow coffee cans up into the air.
And it was always like the most exciting moment is when we were driving and wondering, here's the exit, here's the Uncle Sam's fireworks, is Grandpa gonna pull off the exit? And we wait for that moment when we hear the click of the, of the beeper and he goes off to the side, and we were so excited whenever he took us to get fireworks.
Now we know there are strict rules about who can come and shoot off which fireworks. And so there usually was a no bottle rockets rule, but I would sneak and get little empty soda pop bottles, and we'd bury them in the sand, and then we'd shoot bottle rockets out to see them.
I also remember Melissa going around with a video camera, telling people jokes and recording their reactions.
One of my new favorite memories here is just having my son get to be here and play with his cousins and his family and aunts and uncles. And we miss having great grandpa up here and hope that next season he'll be able to come and play with the kids too. But it's just fun getting to see the next generation of kids up here playing together.
A more recent memory, favorite memory, is bringing my own kids up here and teaching them the favorite things that I loved to do growing up, like going out on the boat or throwing rocks in or playing games and listening to the waves.
It's been really fun now growing up having my own kids to take my boys up north, and it was neat the first couple times to take them and how excited they are to be up there, and kind of helps me remember how much I loved doing it when I was a kid and how cool it is that they enjoyed as much as I did and how much I still do. So it's fun to keep our travels to the cottage going to the next generation.
We're going to be able to continue to build such wonderful memories thanks to the decision that Grandpa and Grandma made to purchase this beautiful cottage, and we're so grateful for that. So thank you so much, Grandpa, and thank you to Grandma, who's in heaven looking down.